a soldier, a father, a brother. The one man to stand beside the legendary Marcus Phoenix and helped to save the world from the Locust and Lambent alike. A story fraught with loss, misery, and hope. Dominic Santiago, remembered through Marcus's son, who bears his name. Welcome again, ladies and animals, as we delve into Dom's past, his search for his family, and his heartbreaking sacrifice at the end of the Locust War, and why that knife is so important. As always, if you like this video and want more, check out the playlist and subscribe so you're here for all future episodes. Born to Eva and Eduardo Santiago 19 years before E-Day, at 8 years old, he would go on to attend school alongside his brother Carlos. Through school, the Santiagos would come to know and become friends with Marcus Phoenix. From here, the three were nigh inseparable. When Dom turned 11, one specific day stood out as the moment he and Carlos would bond forever with the young Phoenix. While the three spent the day with the Santiago family, Carlos and Marcus gave Eduardo a hand working on the family car, while at the same time Dom would talk with his mother, Eva, about how he thought Marcus's parents were cold, or at least more distant than the Santiagos were. That night, while eating supper, a call came for Marcus. The Santiagos watched as he answered his father, Adam Phoenix, who would be there shortly. Marcus went away and was nowhere to be seen at school the next day. Eventually, once turning back up, Marcus revealed that his mother had gone missing, but that something was off. He didn't trust the story that Adam had given him. From here on, Marcus, Carlos, and Dom would spend a lot more time together, with the Santiagos taking in Marcus like a brother. Later on, at the age of 17, Dom had become incredibly close with the daughter of the Santiago's neighbors, Maria Flores. Still in school and young teens, Maria had gotten pregnant. Worried on what they might do to handle this new responsibility, Dom and Maria came clean first to Eduardo and Eva, later telling Maria's parents and agreeing to get married. Dom had Carlos as his best man, and he decided to take after his older brother who had already enlisted in the COG. His mind was made. Dom, with Maria's support, would drop out from school and enlist in order to support his new family. A choice that worried Carlos for a moment until he came to the conclusion that his little brother was going to join the army sooner or later. By the end of that year, Dom and Maria's first child, Benedicto Santiago, was born, and the spring of the next, he would enlist and go off to war. Over the next year, Dominic would go back and forth between battles on the front line and short leaves. Maria became pregnant with their second child, and Dom had volunteered for Commando training. During his time with the Commandos, Dom would be trained by Bernie Mataki, who would teach the recruits to feed and house themselves out on the field. One specific day, they focused on killing and preparing chicken by themselves. Dom and his fellow recruits had a surprising amount of trouble with this. Dom himself and another gear, George Timiu, spoke about how much harder it was to kill something innocent, something that wasn't a threat, compared to the real human lives they had taken out on the field. Before going on leave and finishing his commando training, Dom would begin to send letters back and forth from himself to Marcus and Carlos, who were stationed together as a part of the COG C Company. Marcus himself taking after his father as he was promoted to corporal at the young age of 22. As soon as he had graduated, Dominic came back to Jacinto as fast as possible. With 15 days leave, he returned home to help Maria, who stubbornly took on all the care for Benedicto while still pregnant with their next child, refusing help from her own mother. Dom was ecstatic to show off his commando knife, a reward for signifying his rite of passage in the coalition. The two would talk about how Maria thought it was sad Marcus never had a proper relationship with his own father, and that Dom should make a better effort to be closer with his honorary brother. Dominic never worried for Marcus though, and would just enjoy his time at home, keeping up on things around the house, and coming to the realization how much he enjoyed being a family man and a gear, dedicating himself to causes that he believed in. Falling asleep with his firstborn in hand, Dom was rudely awakened from his leave by Eduardo, informing Dom that all commandos were being called back to base, along with the entirety of Carlos's regional institute were being deployed. Something big was coming, and all Dom could think about was how annoyed he was that his trip was cut short and he had to pack up to leave.
Cripple their communications, then raid the lab. Command wants the Hammer of Dawn, Command gets the Hammer of Dawn.
The Battle of Aspho Fields was a pivotal moment for the entire coalition of ordered governments, and Dominic would be right in the middle of it. The plan to steal the UIR's plans for the Hammer of Dawn was simple. Commandos led by Dominic and Captain Victor Hoffman would penetrate deep into the Indies base as the infantry regiments held out on the outside, denying the Aspho base from any reinforcements during the raid. During the mission, Dom and Hoffman were able to secure the plans, Victor himself executing the remaining UIR scientists attached to the Hammer of Dawn project before they left. On the way out for their exfil, the commandos would lose their transportation, with UIR helicopters taking out the ships they were trying to escape on. Another commando, by tack, would shove Dominic onto one of the remaining crafts before losing his own life, claiming that Dom had to make it back home for his family. Later, after returning from the raid, Dominic would meet with Marcus. He discovered that Carlos Santiago, his older brother, had died during the raid. But for his actions, Dom was awarded the Embry Star, the ultimate medal of honor among the COG. The next 2 years Dom spent back home side. He helped Maria with their new child, Sylvia Santiago. The four would continue living and saving up until Dom could rent out a new apartment in Afira City. Shortly after, he would go back to join into the army with C Company and Marcus. Santiago had become a shade jaded. He expected the war to be over in a few months after the raid at Aspho Fields. Instead, they fought on for another 2 years with no end to the war in sight. Just 2 weeks later, C Company had stopped outside a small town in the UIR-occupied state of Furlan. The announcement finally came. The COG had deployed the Hammer of Dawn, cleaving one of the UIR's largest naval battleships in half in a matter of seconds. A ceasefire and surrender was being negotiated between the COG's chairman and the UIR's president. But while celebrating their victory, C Company came under fire by UIR troops in the mountains. More equipment was destroyed and more lives were lost. The company commander attempted to persuade the Indies to stop, proclaiming the UIR's surrender. Initially, the UIR assumed it to just be another COG trick, until moments later when word came in on their end and the firing stopped. The next day at noon, the Pendulum Wars had finally come to an end. The darkest hour of humanity's history had come to pass. In a single day, a quarter of humanity had been wiped out. Like every other gear, Dominic and Marcus had made the call to action, reporting for duty in the Kelowna district to face the upcoming war against inhuman beasts. In just the first day, billions were dead, including the Flores family who were watching the Santiago's children at the time of Emergence and were all killed by the Locust. Benedicto and Sylvia already claimed by the war. Dom's own parents, Eduardo and Eva, were also reported missing. The next year of war was fraught with disastrous existence. Maria had fallen into a depression upon the death of her children and parents. Prescribed many different medications to treat this, and now a new PTSD she had developed. Between the front lines and the short time he was able to spend with Maria, Dominic had taken a personal hatred against the Locust Horde. A year into the war, Maria had begun to fall into bouts of delusion, lying to herself about the passing of her children, keeping their rooms clean and tidy as if she expected them to return with her mother any day now. When the Fortification Act was passed, Adam Phoenix came to collect Maria on Dom's behalf, sheltering her in the Phoenix estate to be safe from the hammer strikes. 3 years after that, Maria had up and vanished. No explanation, no reasoning. The grief and loss had simply gotten to her. Dominic, stunned by the loss, only had his hatred of the Locust heightened. 10 years into the Locust War, Dominic stood on the stand in court to defend his friend, Marcus Phoenix. The prodigal son was charged with dereliction of duty after his failure at the Battle of Afira. Marcus prioritized his own father's safety over the gears, holding one of the main bridges into Afira, and by abandoning his post and accidentally shutting off the Hammer of Dawn unit they were supposed to use, he had lost the city for the COG and gotten his own father killed. Marcus faced execution for his actions, but Dom's testimony would save his life. While no longer facing execution, Marcus would be sentenced to 40 years at the slab, Jacinto's maximum security prison reserved for the most psychopathic or dangerous war criminals. This action halted Dom's trajectory in the COG, many of his superiors distrusting Santiago, for they believed his loyalty was stronger with Marcus, who was seen as a traitor, than to the COG itself.
We better go.
What about the other prisoners? You can't just leave them here.
They're gone. Hoffman pardoned everybody.
Is that right?
Welcome back to the army, soldier.
Shit.
14 years after E-Day, now Colonel Victor Hoffman had set in motion a plan that he thought could stop the Locust threat for good. All prisoners of the slab were pardoned and brought to the front lines. All could escape but Marcus, who was trapped in his cell by another prisoner during a riot right before the pardon. Dominic himself came to rescue Marcus from the slab, now that the prison had recently come under control by the Locust. This is where Dom's story reunites with the events of Gears of War 1. Marcus and Dom would meet up with Min Young Kim and Anthony Carmine, tasked by Hoffman to find Alpha Squad, a team of Gears carrying a device called the Resonator, a type of sonar mapping device that would be used to mark and target the most crucial corners of the Hollow. Finding what remained of Alpha in Baird and Cole, they would witness the leader of the Locust Horde, Uzul Ram, who ambushed their squad and executed Min. With little other options, Marcus was now made the leader of Delta Squad as they moved through Ephyra, starting out on a lead given to them by Dominic. As it turns out, Dom had never given up in finding Maria. When official lines failed him, he relied on members of the Stranded, civilians who refused to join up with the COG. One such, known as Franklin, was his contact in Ephyra, with no news on Maria. Instead, they used Franklin to get a hold of a stripped APC, a COG armadillo that Delta would ride all the way to an emulsion processing facility, their way into the Locust Hollow.
I don't want people seeing me with you, all right? It's not good for business, man.
Give me that junk of yours.
Say what? Get real, man.
I'm serious, we need it.
Further down underground with the deployment of the Resonator, it was discovered that it would not be enough to properly get data on the Locust tunnels, leading Delta to Marcus's home, where they discovered that Adam Phoenix had an unprecedented level of information about the Locust stored on old drives. Using this new information, Marcus and Dom rushed to Tim Gad's station, where the COG's Lightmass missiles had been hijacked by the Locust. Fighting their way through the train, the two came to the very front and killed Uzul Ram, setting off the bombs deep within the Hollow. A strong victory for the COG.
We must now take this fight to the Locust. We will go to where they live and where they breed, and we will destroy them. This is the day we take the battle to the heart of the enemy.
Marcus and Dom would go out and complete several more missions over the course of the next year, but it was discovered very early on that the Lightmass bombing not only failed to eliminate the Locust, but seemed to strengthen their resolve, making the Horde into a much more dangerous threat to all humanity. Cities began to sink, and Delta moved to secure as much land as they could until all were gathered in Jacinto for the Operation Hollowstorm, as Prescott gathered all the COG's forces for a gigantic offensive into the Locust's home territory, attempting to sever their leadership from the body. During this time, the only leads Dominic had on his still missing wife were being followed up on by Anya, Delta's controller, but none gave them what they needed. From here, the events of Gears of War 2 begin. Delta pushes toward Landdown, where they initiate the first wave of drops. Marcus and Dom plunging into the heart of Locust territory, fighting their way through the outer hollow and coming across the Riftworm, a gigantic beast which was sinking COG cities.
It's a giant worm! They're sinking cities with a giant worm!
Reuniting with Cole and Baird, losing Ty Caliso, and later getting swallowed by the worm, Delta continued on. Inside the Riftworm, they had also lost Benjamin Carmine, but were able to literally cut the worm's heart out and kill it. Finished with that, Delta was sent to New Hope, the COG's secret genetics lab that was shut down during the Pendulum Wars by Chairman Monroe. At the base, they discovered the home of the Locust under Mount Kadar, along with Dr. Niall Sampson and all of his work on the Locust Sires, the birthplace of the Horde. Dom himself was disgusted by it, commenting on how the base looked like a concentration camp. Re-entering the Hollow through Mount Kadar, Dom and Marcus discovered a group of stranded who claimed to have seen prisoners. They had a mission to go on, but Dominic was able to get Marcus to help him look for Maria on the off chance that she had been brought here, as he had done the same to help Marcus try to save his own father.
This is everything we've been fighting for.
Yeah? Well, Maria's everything I've been fighting for. She's my fucking wife, alright?
So you gonna turn your back on your whole world then? The other gears we fought with? All the people who've died?
I'm sorry, Marcus. After what you did for your father, I thought you'd understand.
Ah, hell. Dom, wait up.
Phoenix agreed, and the two scoured through the Locust camps until they found confirmation. Maria was here. Gunning through the patrols, the two fought their way through until they came across it. After 11 long years, Dominic had found his wife, Maria, but he had found her too late.
No, baby. No. What did they do to you? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Maria. I tried to find you. God, I did. Please, no. Maria. God damn it, it's me, Dominic. It's Dominic. Marcus, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, man.
No. It's okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Maria. I love you so much.
Hatred, sorrow, grief. From here on out, Dominic was a swirling thunderstorm of emotions. 11 years, a decade had passed, and all he wanted was his wife, the mother to his children who had died on E-Day, who had been missing for so long and who he tried so hard to find, was trapped here, tortured and maimed by the Locust Horde, turned into a soulless husk that could not speak, could not think, and would not be able to go on. In the most depressing moment of the series, Dominic spared Maria from the fate she had fallen into, mercifully taking her out from this hellscape. From here on out, each and every kill against the Locust was personal. A small fact about Gears of War 2 is that the deleted scene, Road to Ruin, which takes place just after Maria's death, was intended to be a part of the game and was nearly finished. But with the intense emotional breakthrough for Dom, it was decided that the full-on anger and hatred fit his character instead. Dominic didn't want to sneak around. He didn't want to take it slow. As he says himself,
I want to kill them all.
Shortly after, Delta powered their way through the Locust stronghold, their nexus where Queen Mira lived. Discovering the Queen's plans to sink Jacinto and the newly discovered Lamet with it, Delta decided that they would do the same, but before the Locust had a chance to leave, dooming them to share their fate with the Lambent. Returning to Jacinto, the squad would hold off an incredible Locust offensive before hijacking a brumok and forcing it into the emulsive lakes under the Jacinto seawall, destroying the city and the hollow beneath. With all the casualties they suffered, they had a chance for hope. Dominic fell into a depression not unlike that of Maria's after E-Day. He had his tattoo of Maria reworked to add angel's wings, losing track of himself as all sense of grooming or self-care went out the window. As humanity splintered and the Lambent pandemic was in full swing, Dominic joined everyone else aboard the Sovereign, one of the last bastions for the Cog as their numbers dwindled. Aboard the ship, Dominic took after the crops, tending to the farms that the carrier would begin to grow above deck. This is where the events of Gears of War 3 begin, as Prescott returns to the Cog and reveals that not only is Adam Phoenix alive, but that the Locust have taken him hostage. From here, they travel to Anvil Gate to meet with Hoffman, who has the second half of the data they need, and decide to try and capture an old NCOG submarine in order to make it to Azura, the top-secret COG bunker for elites of the Coalition Society, where Prescott had Adam Phoenix kidnapped and stationed to. Before they go to the COG shipyard, however, Dominic suggests a detour through Mercy, Maria's hometown, where they can procure fuel in order to power the submarine. The town, while once occupied, is a total ghost town when Delta arrives. Scouting through the city after finding the power grid is shut off, they discover a stranded man who has armed the pipelines to explode. Further within, they discover that lambency has jumped the species barrier and spread to humans, a plague that begins as a fever, later forcing people to become a former human. Lambent. All of Delta is stunned by this revelation. Samantha Byrne, a member of Delta, even cursing such a fate, with Dominic promising that it won't happen to her. Finally, getting the pipeline back online, Delta prepares to leave. Marcus focuses on the pumps as Dom takes a minute to pray before the Flores family grave.
But you with the kids now. That's home, yeah? I'll see you all again one day. Sleep tight, sweetheart.
Leaving his tags on the statue, the memorial of Dom and Maria's marriage preserved by the conjoined jewelry on his tag. As Marcus attempts to pull the switch to restart the pumps, Dom hands over his commando knife, the same blade he was given from his training back before E-Day, in order to help Marcus clear the blockage and start the pumps. Before they have a chance to enjoy a small victory, the Locust had caught up with them, pinning down the rest of Delta on the outskirts of Mercy. Marcus, Dom, Anya, and Sam return to the trucks to try and secure their ride. During the fighting, the tanker itself takes gunfire, losing its ability to hold fuel. While under siege, the Lambent also come up from behind. Delta is running low on ammo, pinned on both ends, and already losing exactly what they needed to procure the submarine. Exactly what they came for. As Lambent stocks begin to burst from below, splitting off Delta as they rush to regroup at one end of the station, Dom is interrupted and separated. Seeing the unending wave of Lambent, the horde of Locust, and his best friend, his brother, Marcus, Dom comes up with a plan. He jumps from the building, grabbing a rifle and securing the truck before barreling out of the depot. The music swells and chaos consumes the scene. Dominic, hyping himself up at one end of the tunnel, slams his foot on the gas as the truck accelerates towards oblivion. Sitting beside himself, he asks, begs, orders Marcus to clear the area, hounding on the horn to reveal his intentions, giving one last breath for Maria before he closes his eyes and accepts his fate. A silence overtakes the entire field of play as Delta and Marcus leaped for safety from the roaring inferno. All the Locust and Lambent within are burnt to a crisp or crushed by fiery debris as Dom's sacrifice clears Delta from all threats and makes it possible for Marcus to go and save his dad, the one he never really had, who would also save the world.
It's okay, Marcus. It's okay. Come on. We gotta go now. Your father still needs us.
Dom.
Dominic was remembered in James Dominic Phoenix, Marcus's one and only son, who would go on to bear Dom's name in a memorial for Marcus's brother-in-arms who gave his own life for the world. Marcus had also found time to plant tomatoes just the same as Dom's and the Sovereign, with which he used an old Santiago recipe to cook what he has simply called Dom sauce.
God damn it! Those are Doms, for Christ's sakes! I grew those from Dom seeds! Fuck! Those are Dom's goddamn seeds, for Christ's sakes! I'm never gonna have a fucking good sauce again!
One of the Gears who directly helped end the Pendulum Wars, who saved all of humanity and gave Marcus a family of his own when Adam Phoenix couldn't stick around. Santiago is one of, if not the, fan-favorite Gears of War character, and it's easy to see why. To me, Dominic is one of the series' greatest characters that represent the brutality and pain that war causes. Dom doesn't get glory or fame or victory. He loses his family. His wife is taken and made into a mindless husk by the Locust. He himself gives his life to save the only few people who he cared about in the entire world. Even after Maria's death, the easy thing to do would have been to go with her, to take himself out. But like Maria asked him to do all those years ago, he sticks around for Marcus, because Marcus never really had an older brother in the same way that Dom did. Even at the Angel, he repeats the same point when talking to Maria.
Look, Marcus is busy saving the world again, so I gotta be there for him.
But then something clicks. In Mercy, when they're separated, Dom can see that Marcus isn't alone. He still has Anya. He has a tomorrow, a future to look forward to. A future that was stolen, ripped apart, and tortured in front of Dom. He gives his life not as a way to take the easy way out, but as a way to dedicate himself to a purpose that he no longer has the chance to live. So that Marcus and Anya and Sam can live their lives and get out, so they can finally have a tomorrow. Many stories in Gears of War are wrought with death and pain and misery, but none are as personal or effective as Dom's. Even as the player, he was our ally, our best friend, our brother for 3 games now, and he gives his life so that we can save the world. This video has already been a little heavy with the subject matter and Dom himself. Just remember that if you are out there struggling, there are people who love you and care about you. And thankfully, we don't have any monsters underground to worry about. Never feel afraid to reach out to somebody you know, and if you feel like you have no one, join the Discord link below. This is my community, where we try to make everyone feel included and safe and just play stupid games on the weekend. And with that, this is the end of the video. The life, love, and tragedy of Dominic Santiago. Let me know down below what you thought of the video, or what you think of Dom, and why he's likely your favorite character in the series. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel for even more coming every week. And as always, hope runs deep. Stay cool, have fun, and be awesome. Buster out.